I never planned for my life to turn out this way. In fact, if someone had told me 5 years ago that I'd be raising a child alone, working double shifts at a bookstore CAF and navigating motherhood without the father of my child ever knowing he existed, I would've laughed. Or cried. I'm not really sure which. My name is Elara. And this is the story of how one simple DNA test unraveled everything I thought I'd buried deep and forced me to confront the man who once shattered me. Damian Remington. It all started on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Milo, my 6-year-old, had come home from school waving a blue folder. Inside was a family tree assignment. I smiled at first, looking at his scribbles, Mommy in bold crayon letters, a tiny heart beside it. But then his eyes looked up at me, innocent, curious, and he asked, "Mom, who's my dad?" My heart dropped. He'd never asked before. I always thought I had time, that he wouldn't care, that I could delay the truth forever, tucked beneath lullabies and bedtime stories. I sat down on the couch, pulled him close, and told him what I could. Your dad. His name is Damian. We loved each other once, but we lost touch before I knew you existed. That night, long after Milo had gone to sleep, I pulled out the old box from the top shelf of my closet. Inside were relics of another life, a silk tie, letters unsent, photos from the happiest summer of my life. Damian Remington. The name alone stirred emotions I hadn't felt in years: grief, longing, fury. We met in college. He was magnetic, confident, with this quiet intensity in his storm gray eyes. I was a scholarship student working part-time at the campus CAF. He used to order black coffee and blueberry muffins every morning at 8:17 a.m. sharp. For 3 months straight, and every day, he'd stare at me just a little too long, smile just a little too softly. I didn't know then that he came from money, that the Remington name meant billion-dollar deals and headlines. Back then, he was just Damian, just the guy who made me laugh so hard I'd cry. But it ended abruptly. After graduation, he left town for what he called a family emergency. Said he'd come back in a week. He never did. I called. I emailed. I even wrote a letter. Nothing. When I found out I was pregnant, I wanted to hate him. But some part of me still believed he'd come back, that something had gone wrong. He never knew, and I never tried again. Fast forward to now. After Milo's question, something inside me cracked open. I couldn't lie anymore, not to him, and not to myself. So I ordered the test, a simple cheek swab, sent to a private DNA service. I didn't expect much, maybe confirmation, closure, but when the envelope arrived a few weeks later, everything changed. I tore it open in the kitchen, the kettle screaming in the background. My fingers trembled. Paternity match. 99.99% Damian Remington. There it was. Cold, clinical proof. And then I did something stupid. Something reckless. I looked him up. And there he was, on Forbes. On the cover of magazines. Founder of Remington Innovations. Worth $2.4 billion. Engaged to a woman named Vanessa Langford, heiress to a pharmaceutical empire. I stared at the screen, heart thudding. Should I reach out? Should I tell him? What was I expecting? That he'd care? That he'd welcome us with open arms? I shut the laptop and poured myself tea, as if that would somehow calm the storm inside me. But the universe had other plans. Because less than 48 hours later, I heard a knock on my front door, and there he was. Damian, looking like sin and sorrow. Wrapped in a $5,000 coat, he held the DNA test in one hand, and in the other, a teddy bear. He stared at me like he'd seen a ghost. Elara, he breathed. Is he mine? He stood there like time had folded in on itself. Damian Remington, taller than I remembered, broader, more commanding. His black coat was soaked from the rain, hair tousled, but those eyes, they were the same. Stormy, intense, and unreadable. The teddy bear in his hand looked small, almost pitiful. Elara, he repeated, quieter this time. Is he mine? I couldn't speak. It had been nearly 7 years since I last saw him. Since he vanished from my life like a cruel dream. And now here he was, standing on my porch like a man with answers. Or maybe more questions than I had. I finally found my voice. How did you find me? He hesitated. The DNA lab. They sent me a duplicate report. I didn't ask them to. His voice faltered. I never knew, Elara. You never told me. The words hit me like a slap. I crossed my arms, shielding myself. You never gave me the chance, Damian. You disappeared. No calls. No texts. Nothing. What was I supposed to do? Hire a private detective to track down the great Damian Remington? He flinched. You think I just left you? That I walked away? I said nothing. What else could I believe? He exhaled sharply, eyes burning. I never got your letter. I never got anything. My mother, she managed my affairs when I left for Zurich. I thought I'd be gone for a week. But my father collapsed. It turned in 2 months. Then years. She said you had moved on. She said you weren't interested in being found. My jaw clenched. So you just accepted that? I was 22. Confused and grieving. I didn't fight hard enough. I see that now. He looked down, then slowly held out the teddy bear. May I come in? I paused. Some part of me wanted to slam the door, to keep him in the past, where the hurt belonged. But Milo was upstairs, and the storm outside was growing louder. I stepped aside, just enough. He looked around the house as if memorizing it. My modest living room, the toy clutter, the scribbled drawings on the fridge, all a world far from his glass towers and investor meetings. What's his name? He asked gently. Milo, I said. He's 6. Loves dinosaurs and hates spinach. A smile tugged at his lips, but it faded quickly. Does he know about me? I shook my head. He asked. Recently. I told him. You didn't know? He nodded, sitting on the edge of the couch like he didn't quite belong. I want to meet him. I stiffened. It's not that simple. His gaze snapped to mine. He's my son, and he's my entire world, I snapped. I raised him. I stayed up during fevers, read him bedtime stories, taught him how to ride a bike. You don't just walk in with a teddy bear and expect to play dad. Silence. Then Damian stood, hands in his pockets, eyes burning not with arrogance but with something else. Guilt. Regret. I know I don't deserve anything, but I need a chance to meet him, to know him, and to make things right. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. The next morning, Milo met his father. He was hesitant, quiet at first. He peeked out from behind my leg, clutching his favorite stuffed raptor. Damian knelt, holding out the bear. Hi, Milo. I'm Damian. I brought you something. Milo eyed him. You talk weird. I choked on a laugh. Damian looked stunned. Then he laughed, genuine and polished. It broke something in me. Over breakfast, they talked about dinosaurs, about space. Milo asked if Damian liked chocolate chip pancakes. Damian said they were his favorite even though I knew he hated them. Milo beamed, and just like that, a thread was stitched. Days passed. Then weeks. Damian showed up at school pickup, took Milo to the zoo, taught him how to fly a drone. He was trying, but with every smile, I felt torn in two. The wall I'd built over 6 years was crumbling, and I hated that part of me still loved him. Then, just when I thought just maybe we could rewrite our ending, I saw the headline, Remington and Langford, power couple to wed this fall. My heart stopped. Vanessa, his fiancée, the woman he never mentioned. I stared at the glowing screen, fingers numb. Remington and Langford, power couple to wed this fall. Vanessa Langford seen at Remington Innovations launch. Diamond ring confirmed. Wedding set to be the business event of the year. There were photos. Him in a navy tux, her on his arm, wearing a smug, perfect smile. The same man who had just tucked our son into bed and whispered that Milo was the best thing to ever happened to him. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just closed the laptop and sat there. The pain came later in waves, like aftershocks. The first betrayal I had forgiven, buried deep. But this was a fresh wound layered over a scar. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I didn't wait. I called him. He answered on the second ring. Elara, his voice was groggy, like he'd just woken up. Don't come over, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We need to talk. A pause. Then, I'll be there in 20. No, you'll meet me at Willow Park. Noon. I hung up before he could answer. Willow Park had always been my safe place where I used to walk during pregnancy, where I taught Milo how to ride a bike. Now it was the setting of a confrontation I didn't know how to handle. He was already there when I arrived. Same storm gray eyes. Same guilt tucked behind them. I didn't waste time. You're engaged, he exhaled. I was. Not anymore, I blinked. You what? I ended it 3 nights ago. Before I even met Milo. Now I blinked harder. You knew about the DNA result and still. He nodded. Vanessa and I were a business arrangement. My mother's idea again. To merge empires. I was stupid to go along with it. But I thought, maybe I didn't deserve love anymore. That made me freeze. He continued. When the DNA result came, everything shifted. My son was real. You were real. I knew I couldn't marry someone while lying to the 2 people who actually mattered. I looked away, emotions warring inside me. Why didn't you tell me? He sighed, stepping closer but not touching me. I was going to. I wanted to know Milo first. I wanted to earn the right to tell you. The wind rustled the trees. Kids played in the distance. Their laughter too loud, too bright for the storm inside my chest. You still kept a secret, I whispered. I know, he said softly. But I'm done hiding. I love him, Elara. And I still love you. Those words shattered me. I turned, tears brimming in my eyes. You don't get to say that. You don't get to just walk in and pick up where you left off. I don't want to pick up, he said. I want to rebuild. That night, I couldn't sleep again. But it wasn't from anger. It was confusion. Milo adored him. Their bond was growing every day. I couldn't deny that Damian was trying. But I was scared of believing him again, of losing him again, of breaking not just my own heart this time but my son's. 2 days later, Vanessa came to my house. Yes, Vanessa in heels, flawless makeup, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. May I come in? I didn't want to, but I did. She walked around my living room like it offended her. Then she turned to me, crossing her arms. I'm not here to fight. Just to clarify. Clarify what? That Damian is making a mistake. I raised a brow. With me? With all of this? She gestured vaguely. A son, a small house, a woman who writes shelf labels for a living. I bit down my anger. You should go. She ignored me. He's throwing away a future worth billions. For what? Some cheap nostalgia? For family? I said quietly. Something you clearly don't understand. Vanessa stepped closer. I don't lose, Elara. This is a warning. And this is my door, I snapped. Don't let it hit you on the way out. That night, I watched Milo sleep. His soft breathing, the way his tiny hand clutched the bear Damian had given him, my heart ached with love and fear, because love wasn't simple anymore. And neither was the past. I should've known she wouldn't walk away quietly. Vanessa Langford didn't come to my doorstep just to exchange pleasantries or spit thinly veiled insults. She came with a plan. And less than 48 hours later, I found out exactly what it was. It arrived in a sleek envelope, delivered by a man in a black suit. Notice of petition for custody review filed on behalf of Damian Remington. I read it again and again. My vision blurred. My knees buckled. I slid down the hallway wall and sat on the floor, gripping the paper like it might vanish. That night, I waited until Milo was asleep before calling Damian. Why is your name on a custody petition? There was silence on the other end. Then, what? Elara, I didn't file anything. I swear, it's right here, Damian. Your name, your lawyer. His voice dropped, low and furious. Langford. This has Vanessa written all over it. I didn't speak. He did. She must have filed it using my legal team, forged authorization. She has access. I'll fix this. I swear on my life, Elara. I would never do that to you. I wanted to believe him, but all I could think about was the way she looked at Milo's toy dinosaur on the bookshelf like it was a pest. The way she said I don't lose. The court hearing was set for the following week. It all felt surreal, like I was stuck in a legal thriller I never asked to star in. And the stakes were higher than anything I'd ever faced. Milo was mine. Not like a possession, but in the way that I had held him through nightmares, danced with him in the kitchen, taught him how to say please and thank you, and held his hand every time he was afraid of thunder. I couldn't let anyone take that. The courthouse was cold. Marble floors, echoing footsteps, and too many men in suits. Damian arrived first, tense and dressed in gray, his tie hanging loose like he hadn't even tried. When I stepped in with my lawyer, he rushed to me. I filed an emergency withdrawal of the petition. It wasn't authorized. I have proof. Please trust me. I looked him in the eye. Then help me win this. He nodded. Inside the courtroom, it wasn't just about forms and names, it became a battle of character. Vanessa's lawyer painted me as a struggling single mother who had kept Milo from his father. I wanted to scream, but then Damian stood. Your Honor, I was never informed. I abandoned no one. My mother interfered, and I allowed it. That's on me. But Elara, she's the best mother I've ever seen. She raised a brilliant, kind, loving son, and she did it without help, without money, without me. He turned toward me. She didn't keep Milo from me. I kept myself from them. I was too blind to see what mattered. But I see it now. The judge nodded, silent. Vanessa stood up, lips tight. So now what? He just walks away from our agreement? From his obligations? You don't love me, Vanessa, Damian said calmly. You never did. And I won't let you use my son as a pawn in your war for power. There it was. The last nail in the coffin. The judge dismissed the petition. No custody was granted, not even shared, because there never should have been a case in the first place. But Damian didn't look relieved. He looked broken. Outside the courthouse, he found me near the fountain, pacing. "Elara," he said, breathless. "I'm so sorry for all of it. I failed you once, and I almost let it happen again." "You didn't fail me, Damian," I said quietly. "You just forgot who you are." His eyes met mine, and they were glassy with unshed emotion. "Let me remember with you. With Milo. I'll wait. I'll prove it." Every day, I didn't answer. Not yet. Because love wasn't a verdict. It was a decision, and I wasn't ready to make it just yet. That evening, Milo climbed into my lap with a new book from the library. He smiled like the world was perfect. "Will Damian still come see me?" "He'll always want to," I whispered. "I want him to stay forever." My heart cracked and began, somehow, to heal. After the court battle, things didn't just fall back into place. There were no grand romantic gestures, no fairy tale ending. Just silence, and a space I wasn't sure how to fill anymore. Damian kept his word. He didn't press. He didn't show up unannounced. He gave me space, too much of it maybe. He saw Milo every other weekend. They'd go to the museum, play soccer in the park, build Lego towers in the living room, and then he'd leave. Each time, Milo would ask, "Why doesn't he stay for dinner?" I never had a good answer, because the truth was, I didn't know what we were anymore. One morning, I walked into the CAF where I worked, just as the manager was pinning up a notice. "Store closing in 2 weeks." I felt my stomach twist. The bookstore CAF had been my refuge, my steady place. Now, it was another rug pulled from under me. I picked up extra shifts, quietly updated my resume, and told Milo nothing. But stress has a way of creeping in, unnoticed, until it bursts. It happened on a Tuesday. I was picking Milo up from school when my vision blurred. I remember feeling dizzy in the parking lot. My ears rang. The next thing I knew, I was on the ground, and Milo's tiny hands were shaking my shoulder. "Mommy, Mommy, wake up." When I came to, I was in a hospital bed, and 4 in my arm. Nurses around me. Damian was there, 2 eyes wild with panic, his coat half off, breathless, like he'd run through fire to get there. "What happened?" I asked weakly. "You collapsed from exhaustion," they said. "You've been overworking, not eating, not sleeping." I closed my eyes. "You should've told me," he said softly. "I could've helped." And then, for the first time in a long time, I let my guard down. I cried, not quiet tears, but the heavy, aching kind, the kind that had built up over 6 years of pretending I was fine, that I didn't miss him, that I could do everything alone. Damian stayed that night. He read to Milo in the chair beside my bed, sat next to me while I drifted in and out, and somewhere between sleep and waking, I heard him whisper, "I never stopped loving her." God help me, I never did. When I was discharged, he didn't ask questions. He took Milo's backpack, carried my purse, held the door. He moved into a hotel nearby quietly, respectfully. He brought groceries, fixed a leak under my sink, showed up for school concerts and parent-teacher meetings, and he stopped talking about getting back together. Instead, he just showed up, day after day, without expectations, without pressure. One evening, I found a note slipped under my door, handwritten, no envelope. "I know I hurt you. I know I can't rewrite our past, but I want to build a future with both of you. If you ever feel ready, I'll be where you left me on the porch Friday night. No pressure. Just hope. That Friday, I stood at the window for a long time. The sun was setting. Milo was asleep. The silence in the house was heavier than usual. I opened the front door, and there he was, just like he promised, sitting on the steps, head bowed, fingers nervously twisting a ring on his thumb. When he saw me, he stood, but didn't speak. I stepped out, wrapping my arms around myself. I didn't come out here to talk about the past, I said. He nodded. Okay, I came to talk about the future. He looked up, hope flickering behind his eyes. I want to try, I whispered. Slowly, carefully. For Milo. For us. But on my terms. Damian stepped closer, his voice trembling. Any terms you want. Just let me love you both. That night, for the first time in 6 years, I didn't cry alone. Trying again wasn't as simple as saying yes. It meant unlearning 6 years of doing everything on my own. It meant letting someone back into my carefully constructed world, one that had always been fragile, but mine. But for Milo's sake. And maybe for my heart's sake too. I opened the door. Damian didn't move back in. He rented the townhouse across the street. That was my idea, close enough for Milo, far enough for me. He agreed without protest, and for the first time, we were a team. Week by week, we found a rhythm. Mornings where Damian joined us for breakfast. Afternoons at the park. Evenings where Milo would drag him into pillow forts and declare him King Dad of Castle Dinosaur. It was surreal, beautiful, terrifying. We didn't kiss, we didn't hold hands, but sometimes I'd catch him looking at me like he still carried the version of us that had once burned bright, and sometimes I looked back the same way. Then came the press. Somehow, the story leaked. Billionaire Damian Remington fathered secret child with small-town woman. Paparazzi parked near Milo's school. A swarm of reporters camped out by my porch. The bakery I'd applied to for part-time work stopped returning my calls. It was suffocating. Worse than I expected. Worse than I was prepared for. I confronted Damian. You said you'd protect us. He looked devastated. I never said I was perfect at it. This is Milo's life. His safety. His privacy. I don't care if it costs you shareholders, fix it. He nodded like a soldier receiving orders. The next day, his lawyers filed a gag order. The tabloids were silenced. The photos vanished. And Damian stood on national television and said, I'm a father, a proud one. And while the world may be curious, my son's childhood is not for sale. That night, I watched the broadcast from my couch while Milo slept. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was fighting alone. But peace never lasts long, does it? Because 2 weeks later, the past knocked on our door again. Only this time, it wasn't mine. It was Damian's single quotes s.it came in the form of a woman, late 30s, striking in a way that made me instinctively guard my heart. Not because of her looks, but because of the knowing look she gave me. She showed up during one of our joint library outings with Milo. I was helping him pick a book when she walked up to Damian and touched his arm. Hello, stranger. He froze. I watched from a few feet away, pretending to scan the shelves. Sabrina, he said, his voice tight. Been a while. You shouldn't be here, and yet, here I am. You've been hard to reach. He glanced at me. I turned, pretending to focus on Milo, but my ears were burning. I didn't think you'd want to meet her this way, Sabrina said softly. My heart skipped. Meet who? Then I heard it, a whisper, a sentence that turned my bones to ice. You have another child, Damian. A daughter. I didn't cause a scene, didn't shout, didn't throw things, didn't even cry. Instead, I sat on the park bench later that night while Damian told me everything. Or at least, everything I could stomach to hear. It was years ago. Right after. After I thought you were gone for good. Sabrina and you don't owe me the details, I said coldly, but my stomach clenched all the same. She didn't tell me until recently. She said she was scared I'd take her to court or worse disappear with the baby. She had a daughter, Elara. Her name's Elara too. I blinked. You're kidding. He gave a sad smile. No coincidence, maybe. Or maybe the universe was reminding me who I lost. So what now? I asked. Now, I try to be a father too. 2 children. The next weeks blurred into one exhausting whirlwind. I told myself to back away to let Damian sort his life. But life had other plans. Milo asked, "Why is Daddy always sad now?" And I didn't have the heart to lie. I sat him down and explained in the gentlest way I could that he had a half-sister. His eyes widened. I always wanted a sister. Damian arranged a playdate. Awkward at first. Sabrina watched me like I was some threat. I watched her like she was a ghost. But the kids? They bonded instantly. Like they were meant to find each other. Sabrina was complicated, polished, successful, confident in the way I never dared to be. She wasn't cruel, but she made it clear that this arrangement was temporary. "We'll be moving to London in 6 months," she said over coffee one day. "Does Damian know?" "He will." I said nothing. I wasn't her. I didn't get to decide Damian's priorities. I didn't want to. Not anymore. Then Milo came home crying. She said I'm not Daddy's real kid. That he only likes me because of the test. My world cracked. I didn't care how composed Sabrina looked. I drove straight to her apartment and knocked until she opened the door. "You told your daughter Milo was a mistake." She had the decency to look flustered. "I didn't say that." "No, but you let her believe it. And I won't allow you to poison his heart with your bitterness. You think you're better than me because you raised him alone. Please. I was the one who stayed away to protect my child. You dragged yours into the spotlight. The difference is, I love mine more than my pride." She slapped me, and I walked away, because I'd already won. Damian had been standing behind me the whole time. That night, he showed up with a suitcase. Not for a dramatic reunion, not for declarations of love, but because he couldn't stand being near someone who treated his son like a footnote. "If I can't be a father to both my children with equal love," he said, "then I've failed." "What are you saying?" I asked. "I'm fighting for custody of Elara, and I want you by my side." I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either, because somewhere deep down, I realized this man wasn't the boy who left me. He was the father fighting for our future. The day Damian filed for partial custody of Elara, the media went wild. It was war not just in the courtroom, but in the tabloids, the headlines, the whispers of PTA, MOMS, and business partners alike. And although I wasn't married to him, although we had no formal bond beyond Milo, I was dragged into it too. Damian Remington's secret lover fights back. DNA scandal. Billionaire CEO's love triangle. 2 children, 2 mothers, 1 inheritance. I didn't care about the noise. I cared about the children. Elara was only 6, but her eyes had already learned to shield emotion. And Milo, sweet, open-hearted Milo, was shrinking under the weight of a world he couldn't understand. One morning, I found him sitting at our broken upright piano, tapping out a melody I didn't recognize. "What are you playing?" "A song Daddy sang to me. He said he wrote it for you when you were teenagers." The song was soft and unfinished, and hauntingly beautiful. I sat beside him, pressing a key or two, and I cried. Not because of the music, but because Damian remembered. Because in some hidden corner of that giant, guarded man, he still held the melody of us. The custody battle was vicious. Sabrina came armed with lawyers, psychologists, and accusations. "He's unstable. He left my daughter for another woman. He's trying to replace her with a new family." But the judge wasn't interested in theatrics. He wanted facts. He wanted patterns. And Damian prepared, as he was let his actions speak louder than his money. He brought videos of bedtime stories, dance recitals, school plays, drawings Elara made of her two homes. He admitted his past mistakes without flinching, never denied his flaws, and then he did something no one expected. He gave me the stand. I wasn't his wife, but I was the woman who'd known him before the suits and the empire. And when the judge asked if I thought Damian Remington was a good father, I said this: "He broke me once, and I built a life without him." But no one shows up for a child the way he does now. Not for show, not for legacy, just because he loves them. And that love changed him. I wasn't sure if I was shaking because of nerves or because deep down I believed it. Outside the courtroom, Sabrina pulled me aside. Her face was pale, tight with pride, but her eyes betrayed something else: exhaustion, maybe even regret. "I never hated you," she said. "But I was scared." "Of what?" "Of being second." "You were never second," I said honestly. "You just came into his life before he knew how to be whole." She nodded slowly. "I won't fight anymore. He can have her weekends and holidays. We'll figure it out." And that night, for the first time in a long time, Damian knocked on my door, not as an enemy, not as a stranger, but as someone who had walked through fire. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For not giving up on me." "Not completely." He paused, looking at the broken piano in the corner. That melody Milo played, it was our song. I never finished it. I didn't know how to end something I never wanted to lose. "Maybe it doesn't need an end," I whispered, and then he kissed me. It wasn't dramatic. No fireworks or swelling music. Just two broken people choosing each other again, quietly, carefully, like the beginning of a song we might finally finish. The media storm was deafening. Reporters outside my apartment, drones flying near my window, headlines like "DNA Scandal, Billionaire Damian Remington's Secret Child." Damian's PR team tried to control the narrative, but the damage was already spiraling. They wanted a press conference. He wanted a statement. But I wanted peace for me, for Maya, and for the truth. Then came the letter from Amelia, a heartfelt apology handwritten, trembling with regret. I didn't know the full story. I acted out of fear of losing my family. But seeing Damian fight for you, for Maya, I realized love doesn't come with control. "I'm sorry." I sat in silence for hours, rereading it over and over. The next morning, Damian called. "I want to do this right. Not for the press, not for damage control, for us." He proposed something bold: a public DNA confirmation and a family mediation session, live streamed, if necessary. Brutally honest, transparent. I didn't want the spectacle, but I admired the courage. Maya, now old enough to sense tension, clung to Damian like a second skin. "Daddy," she whispered more confidently. "These days, and I wasn't sure if I hated him anymore. I wasn't even sure if I could." The DNA test was indisputable again, and this time, it was shown to the world. No ambiguity. Damian Remington was Maya's father, and his tears on camera weren't for show. "I abandoned her before I even knew her. That's my greatest shame," he said. "But I'll spend the rest of my life earning her forgiveness and Olivia's." The internet exploded with empathy. But there was one more twist left in our story. The court mediation was intense. My lawyer, his family therapists, custody experts, everyone had an opinion. But when the judge asked Maya what she wanted, her response silenced the room. "I want mommy and daddy to stop fighting. I want pancakes. I want to dance in the living room like we used to." It was so pure, so simple. After that day, things shifted. Damian stopped pushing for full custody. Instead, we agreed to CEO parenting with a real partnership. And slowly, he earned it. He showed up for parent-teacher meetings. He brought snacks on Sundays. He helped Maya learn to ride her bike and stayed up with her through every fever. And on a rainy November night, as we all cuddled on the couch, he whispered the words I buried deep in my heart. "I never stopped loving you, Liv." I didn't respond right away, because healing isn't linear. It's a spiral. Some days you feel okay, others you're drowning again. But that night, with his arms around me and Maya giggling between us, I let my heart open a little more. Maybe love deserved a second chance. Maybe we did. Life, I realized, never gives you a clean slate. Instead, it hands you messy chapters filled with unexpected turns, heartbreaks, and sometimes hope. After the custody battle and the public drama, Damian and I settled into a fragile peace. We weren't a fairy tale couple. We were two flawed adults trying to build something real for Milo, for Maya, and for ourselves. The hardest part? Learning to say goodbye. Not to each other. To the past. To the bitterness that had colored every conversation, every doubt. One rainy afternoon, Damian and I stood on the porch of my small home, watching Milo and Maya chase each other through puddles. He took my hand. "I'm sorry I wasn't there," he said softly, "for everything I missed." "Me too," I whispered. "But maybe the past doesn't have to define us." He smiled, a little hesitant, but hopeful. "What if we tried? Not rushing. No promises. Just steps." I nodded, because after everything, that's all anyone can ask for. Weeks later, Damian surprised me with an old, worn piano. "Finish that song," he said, eyes gleaming. We sat together, fingers touching the keys, playing the melody that once haunted us. It was imperfect like us but beautiful, and in that moment, I knew love wasn't about never falling apart. It was about choosing to piece the pieces back together. As the seasons changed, so did we. Damian officially moved in. Milo and Maya called him Dad without hesitation, and me. I finally allowed myself to dream of a family, of a future, of a love reborn, not perfect, but ours. Because sometimes the greatest love stories aren't the ones written in fairy tales. They're the ones we write ourselves, with courage, with forgiveness, and with hope. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment love, so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, spread love.